Fans, welcome to Season 1, Episode 12 of the Lions Main Podcast. We've officially been knocked back into reality. We have a lot to discuss, so the guys will share their reactions and hand out their game balls to the most deserving player. And we'll give our opinions on who has room to improve heading into Week 3. Once again, you can find us on Twitter at LionsMainPod and Instagram at LionsMainPodcast. Tune in and give us a follow.
This is the Lions Main Podcast.
That's probably as excited as I'm going to get on today's episode. If the Detroit Lions fans and listeners don't know by now, I am a Michigan Wolverines and Detroit Lions fan, so this weekend was not good for me. The quarterback play with Michigan looks abysmal. We actually might lose to Michigan State. That's how bad we are. Horrible team over there. And then the Detroit Lions, man, we got a lot to talk about on today's episode. Before we get into it, George, Jim, how you guys doing?
Certainly had better days, but optimistic. I always stay optimistic. We're going to get into it. It seemed like a game that, you kind of were watching it and didn't feel like there was any trouble or like you were going to lose that game. And then, when it came down to it, the heart was beating and, didn't go our way. But, we had a good weekend, spent some time. Jim was with me with when we watched the game at Tin Roof. And
that's the spot, eh?
Yeah, we liked it. Jim, you can speak for that.
That's good.
Yeah, I liked it, but it was there's an element of being sad with everybody else in public that almost makes the sadness worse.
Yeah.
In some ways I would have preferred to be locked alone in some sort of padded room just to watch the end of that game. But I agree with your sentiment. That game throughout it, I thought Lions are in control. We're playing better. And we'll get into this. It's backed up by the stats. I think that the Lions play by play played a better game. I think obviously they made more mistakes and the Bucs made less mistakes, but always fun to get drunk on Sunday. Especially when you don't have much to do the next day. I feel like Sundays are the new Saturdays for like late 20s to mid 30s men. So it was a good weekend. Wish it would have resulted in a different way, but we did have a good time together. George had a bunch of gluten-free treats for my birthday, so I went to town, got a little chubstep, but that's okay.
That's a good friend right there. Is beer gluten-free, or do they have gluten-free options?
There are gluten-free options, however, they're usually pretty trash. There's a couple of good ones, but honestly, I just slug back vodka sodas.
Yeah,
I probably had 6 vodka sodas at that place.
So you're just hard liquored up all the time.
Literally, but I'm telling you, if you mix soda with that or tequila, it's basically like you're not drinking. Well, you are. Obviously, you're getting drunk and your liver and kidneys are in pain, but you don't taste it. It tastes great.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely, to the first point, I definitely think that's
just a quick side note. When he was ordering food at the bar, they didn't have a lot of options, but they did have like some breakfast. It was cool. They had some breakfast options, like breakfast sandwiches. So Jim was able to order scrambled eggs and bacon at the bar. I think
at a sports bar at 1 p.m. So that was fun.
That's
funny. Awesome. No, that's fun.
Good
that's
eggs.
Fun. That's fun. So we'll get into it, but you talk about us dominating the game in almost every facet. I don't feel sad in any way. I feel more mad, and some of the talking points, especially our who's on the shit list segment. You'll see a little bit of my anger probably come on as I talk about the coaching staff. But before we get into our 2 big segments of the game ball, who we get our game balls to, as well as who's on the shit list, let's do a game recap for some of our listeners who want to hear the events from the uneventful loss that we had. So the Week 2 matchup kicked off with Tampa Bay Buccaneers driving down the field and starting the day with a field goal. The Lions got the ball next, and the refs missed what seemed to be a blatant, very obvious pass interference call that turned into Goff's first interception. The defense did prove stout, holding the Bucs offense on this next drive to 7 yards and forcing them to settle for a field goal. We matched that same energy on the next drive, driving 67 yards to kick a field goal and make the score 6-3, Bucs leading. The next score came from Jake Bates in the first, tying the game 6-6. And as we get into that segment later, you hear what I have to say about Jake Bates. And then following a Baker Mayfield touchdown to Chris Godwin, who seemed to have our number in the whole first half. It seemed like Baker threw him the ball 10 times straight to start the game. The Lions then made a horrible illegal formation error that caused points to be left on the board, and eventually a 13-6 lead for the Bucs going into the half, which is probably the bulk of where my anger resides. The second half was more eventful, with the Lions scoring a field goal and punt on consecutive drives. A field goal and touchdown on consecutive drives to finally take a 16-13 lead. Baker Mayfield would respond by crossing over the entire defense like Allen Iverson and reclaiming a 20-16 lead. 2 failed fourth down conversions and another Goff interception would eventually see the Lions lose in disappointing, horrible fashion, 20-16. So there you have it. There's the game recap. Let's just get into our first segment, game ball segment. George.
Game ball. All right, this one's a pretty obvious one. Aiden Hutchinson. He had a great game. We all saw it. It was made watching the defense exciting, which normally, for the past couple of years, it's been something that's been kind of, makes us nervous. But, this game, he had 5 tackles, 4.5 sacks, 3 in the first quarter, 1 forced fumble, 6 pressures. That's pretty darn good. And it's the best.
Yeah.
Actually. So total after week 2, 6 sacks, 4 quarterback hits, 17 pressures, and a 42.3 win percentage. And that's top of his class in all those. So Aiden Hutchinson gets my game ball, pretty obvious one. It makes it exciting moving forward.
It does make it exciting. It's awesome that, as Detroit Lions fans, we were always rooting, us growing up, for Calvin Johnson. It's great to have one of those players who potentially will be the best at their position and that we can root for again. So, nothing much more to hit on that. He had an awesome game. That's what makes me a little more mad as well. This dude had a historic game, and he's on pace for something ridiculous like 50 sacks. We know he'll slow down eventually if he's on pace for like 50 sacks.
Right. They say he's on pace, well on his way to be Defensive Player of the Year, as they say. But
look, week 3, he's got another backup tackle. It looks like the Cardinals might have a tackle out, so it might be the pace might continue.
Yeah, and we'll cover that in our matchup preview for week 3. But I'm horrified at watching Kyler Murray scamper around the potential around our defense. So we'll break that down a little bit further, but hopefully Aiden can maintain his Super Saiyan form,
right,
for my mental sake.
It was cool because we touched on that in. Sorry, Jim. We touched on that on the game preview move. Coming into Tampa, we talked about how possibly the left or the tackle would be out, and Aiden could have a game where he just excels, and he did, which was awesome to see. Sorry, Jim.
No, you're good. I think Aiden obviously was the highlight of the game, so you stole one from everybody else. Congrats, loser.
Low hanging fruit.
Yeah. I think God is like a good character. Anyways, I think the coach, the guy who coaches Aiden's side of the ball, has had a great start to the season. I think AG and that defense have really proven themselves. I know some of the numbers aren't exactly pretty on the cornerbacks, but again, they're for the most part preventing those big plays. I thought that even that PI call on Terrion in this game was a little more iffy. I've seen it called before, but I also think it's a ticky-tacky kind of foul compared to last week.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And look, yes, they were completing it to Chris Godwin, and they were getting some yardage, but again, no explosive plays. If you look at the yardage total, and I'm sure we'll get into some of this, the Bucs only had 216 total yards, and they scored 20 points because there was two times that they were put in great spots in Detroit field position. As much as the Lions didn't execute on offense, the defense held up their end of the bargain quite well, I'd say. And so, I think AG called a good game. There's obviously things you could always say, oh, why is that happening? Why does that keep happening? But, two pretty stout offenses, especially the Rams before everyone decided to get malaria or get shot in the leg. But the last two offenses we played were good when we played them. The Bucs put 37 up on the Commanders. Granted, the Commanders are absolute cheeks, dumpster fire, but I just think AG, he's been much maligned the past couple of years. When you give him a talented unit, give him a healthy unit, and you don't have Jerry Jacobs and Kendall Builder on the outside. No disrespect to either of them. Good things happen. So I'd say he deserves a little recognition in spite of all the coaches.
Yeah. And just to bring up a point from our last episode where we did our week 2 preview, when we did our player prop bets, Jim, just let our listeners know, for you guys that aren't following, on our weekly previews that we put on Friday, we do our player prop bets. Jim selected the under for Rachaad White. And so I think his number was sitting at somewhere around 40 or 50, and he ended up actually only rushing for
18.
Look at this, for 18 yards. And so we held them as an entire team, especially Baker Mayfield, Allen Iverson version out there. We held them in a total rushing yards to 70. So speaks volumes that how the defense actually did perform. So that's a good shout out to Aaron Glenn.
And
Jim.
146 passing yards. You could tack on that, obviously, that penalty from Terry on, but that's not a guaranteed completion. So I think the passing defense even was good. 0% on the defense this week.
Yeah. And holding Mike Evans to 3 catches, 42 yards is no easy feat. I would never put my money against him only catching the ball 3 times and only having 42 yards.
No.
So shout out to defense. Shout out to Aaron Glenn. Yep. And so my game ball, I like highlighting this guy because this is one of the positions that doesn't get a lot of notoriety. For years, I've been screaming about we should get rid of kickers in football. But not having a trusted kicker has made me wake up and see how important these guys are. And so my game ball is going to Jake Bates. 2 for 2 in this game, starting the season at 100%. This is awesome because it's building a trust within our organization, within the fans, and more importantly, within Dan Campbell, the guy who's making these decisions. And so love that for the team, love that for the future. And in these big games, and when we get to our shit list, and I'll talk about Dan Campbell there, you want your coach to be equipped with, all the knowledge and I guess all the faith that his kicker can go out there and make these big kicks. So we saw it happen in the NFC championship game last year. And I'm glad that he's actually out there drilling these things.
100%. No, I think, you look at it and it obviously we'll get into Dan Campbell's kind of end of the half mistake there. And I think that is a domino effect because I think we could have, settled for a field goal later in the game, which does,
Oh yeah.
But it's nice to know that his go-to move there before halftime was, hey, let's kick a field goal instead of, we got to do some hoopty-loopty bullshit at the 35-yard line and try to get another 15 yards to hopefully get a kick and maybe even not. So, the fact that we have that optionality, I like the Dan, and he did it a couple times in this game. He's still aggressive, still does stuff that other coaches don't have the guts to do, but he doesn't have to literally look like a crazy man every game now because he's got someone who can actually kick it past the 45 mark.
Yep. Good things moving forward. For our listeners, I know you guys are used to hearing this other guy, Drew, who just usually spends his time berating George on the podcast. He couldn't join us today. He's deathly ill with either pneumonia, mono, something ridiculous. So George would say it's karma. We say get better.
What goes around comes around.
Game ball
goes around comes around. Master Bates. Drew was a doubter, and here he is, 100%, like you said, just as we expected.
Some could say that this is the punishment. He seemed to be a little bit saltier than even me on this game, and so his game ball segment, he said that nobody on their team, obviously besides Aiden Hutchinson, was deserving. And so his game ball segment went out to Baker Mayfield and Chris Godwin. He said they torched us. They fulfilled their Cooper Kupp role-esque position that they were trying to put Chris Godwin in, and they embarrassed us. So shout out to Drew. Keep that same negative energy. We're going to need it through these long Detroit Lions seasons. So we appreciate it. Get better.
Get well, Drew.
Yeah, get well. No, fuck you, Drew. Anyways.
Yeah, actually, I hope the stuff gets worse. Gets an ingrown nail. Gets infected.
Yeah, get well, Drew.
I hope you're suffering right now.
Maybe even die.
Maybe even die.
Whoa.
Well, then we can instead of splitting it 4 ways, we can split it 3 ways.
Yeah, we got to make sure that we're in his insurance policy.
Come on,
George. It's maximizing. Come on. You gotta start.
Hey, are we trying to monetize this podcast? We can't be talking about killing people.
Well, no, we
we're not killing him.
Sponsors.
Or letting them die and wishing death upon them.
Yeah, we're trying to get Buddy's Pizza for a sponsor. Come on. They'll support us.
Right.
Life is short.
Like Wendy Williams.
Come on. Yo, we need to do that. We need to do that thing. Like, you remember at the end of the Rick and Morty episodes when they're like, oh no, the South Park episodes when they're like, please end South Park. Like, make it end.
Yeah.
We need to do the thing at the end of our episodes where we're like, please, Buddy's Pizza sponsor us, please.
Actually, I would be down to beg Buddy's Pizza at the end of every episode, like,
and we should just at them on all social medias.
Please,
I don't know why I chose
Mr.
that.
Buddy. I'm actually staying only like I think a mile and a half from their headquarters. So if you want me to go run over there and scream at the top of my lungs every day for the next couple weeks, I can.
Go ahead.
It might get you jailed. It might actually get you
It's protest.
not
It's just
hired
protest.
and jailed.
Hey, it's a protest.
Yeah. We could get some merchandise and you go out there and just like hand out free stickers and t-shirts to the Buddy's Pizza workers.
Lions Made
employees.
Lions Made Podcast, please sponsor us. Lions Made Podcast, please sponsor us. I'll go to I won't go to the headquarters. I'll just go to A Buddy's Pizza, and they'll be like, I don't know what the hell. Yeah, some 17-year-old smoking cigarettes before work.
And when we mention our sponsor, we have to say like, this is we're sponsored by Buddy's Pizza in Rochester. Like we had just that one.
Shout out to Logan, the assistant manager.
One. Yeah, in Livonia, some like obscure city.
It's time for I don't know what their bread is. The Loopy Bread shit list of the week. Brought to you by Loopy Bread from Buddy's Pizza in Rochester.
Right. Yo, if we could get like American Coney now or Lafayette or something, that would be that dirty ass place Lafayette. That'd be sick.
You like looking like someone just took diarrhea on your hot dog? Come on down. All right, sorry. That was disrespect to an American icon.
I mean
Detroit icon.
Great food. Detroit icon, yeah.
Beautiful food.
You could say an American icon just because American Coney is actually, they have a location in Las Vegas. And so that's an international tourist location.
I didn't realize that. Where is it?
It's at so they actually have a place called the D Hotel, which is down on off of Fremont or Old Las Vegas, if some people are familiar. And right on the little strip portion, they have an American Coney, and it is, yeah, that's the one, yeah. And
sponsor us.
All the Coney, all the dogs, everything is shipped in the same products that they use in Detroit. It's utilized in Vegas as well. So Buddy's Pizza and American/Lafayette Coney, if you're listening, please give us a sponsor.
Throw one other out there. Hamster. Sorry, what's that? Not Hamster Tube. X Hamster. What's that one website?
For Jim's sake, please, X Hamster.
X Hamster, please.
Speaking of someone looked like someone took a sloppy on your hot dog. Jim, who's on your shit list, man?
Yeah, my poop scroll. So I have so you could go a couple of different directions here. I think the obvious one people are going to want to go is Jared Goff or Dan Campbell or even Ben Johnson. I think that's the three that most people are saying. I'll let you guys get those words in. But I think a part of the issue for both, and I think honestly mine is almost a tie between Ben Johnson and the second group because I think they both caused Jared Goff's bad game to some degree, but it's the interior O-line. I think, obviously guys that I really believe in, Glasgow and Ragnow, being arguably the best center in the game the past couple of years. The Lions yesterday gave up 19 pressures. Granted, 55 dropbacks, but 19 pressures nonetheless. Glasgow and Ragnow led the team with 6 and 5 respectively. The next being Gibbs at 3. Deckard, Sewell had an okay game. Each had allowed 2 pressures. A little uncharacteristic of Sewell. I think Decker's usually around there. Zeitler had a great game. But, Jared Goff, something that we all know, or at least people who, really follow the team and are on Reddit too much and, not doing work and reading stuff on Wikipedia and Reddit will know is that Jared Goff is bad when you pressure him up the middle.
Yeah.
If you pressure him around the edges, he can step up in the pocket. He's a pocket passing quarterback. He can step up in the pocket and make that throw. He is at his worst when he gets pressured up the middle. And so there was a couple times, which was very uncharacteristic of Ragnow, where he kind of got, no pun intended, ragdolled by Vita Vea and just absolutely torn to shreds. And so Goff is, and on his second pick, the pick that I think was a legit pick, and another throw that probably should have been a pick, you watch him, he got pressured right up the middle. Every time he made a horrific throw where you said, "What the hell is that?" Other than maybe one, it was because someone was right in his face from that interior. And I think part of that is, I'd have to go back and dissect how much that happened in the third and fourth quarter, but I do think, Ben Johnson, I love him. Not going to be like, oh, he needs to fix it, but 55 passes against the team. I get why the secondary was weak, but you got to run the ball. I mean, the line can only drop back so many times, especially, if they are getting beat up. Give them a chance to push forward, and you always hear that from retired offensive linemen. They want to move forward. They don't want to absorb the contact all the time. They want to give the contact. So
they want to give the CTE, not take the CTE.
Exactly. So, for me, obviously, I think a part of that's on Ben Johnson. I think a part of it is on the O line, particularly Glasgow and Ragnow. I'm thinking it's just rust. I'm thinking that Ragnow will come out, but those two need to do better next game. And Ben Johnson probably needs to give a little bit more of an even kind of mix between run and pass next game.
Yeah, no, that's actually a perfect segue into what I want to talk about, because you talk about our strength of our team, and it's unanimous that we're the best run blocking offense. We're not the best pass blocking defense. We're good at it, but we're not the best pass blocking defense. So, goes into the next segment. The guy that Drew wanted to talk about, Ben Johnson, play calling. Not leaning on the run, not leaning on our strength, not leaning on Sewell and these guys around him, was extremely disappointing. And he almost put himself and Goff in a position where we were forced to not do our game like late into the fourth, because he was so adamant on changing it up or switching it up. I don't know what that is, but I think there needs to be processes in play from either him or the guy who's on my shit list, Dan Campbell, to check our offensive coordinator, check our offense when things aren't going well. And so with how high-powered our offense is, you got Amon-Ra being targeted 19 times. I don't know how many times off the top of my head that Laporta was targeted, but him being forced balls from Jared Goff, whether it's a drawn-up, scheme to play from Ben Johnson, Laporta's not touching it nearly as much as he should. Jamo got 11 targets, which I'm happy of, but Monty and Gibbs didn't touch it nearly enough. And at the end of the game, when Gibbs almost took that run to the crib, but stepped out at the last step, he finally went back to the run game, and it started working for us. And then, of course, it ended in failure in a fourth down, failed conversion. But so Ben Johnson was Drew's guy who's on the shit list. My guy is Dan Campbell, and I would just want to say this about him. He's purely the decision maker of the team. Aaron Glenn is out there running the defense. Ben Johnson's out there calling the shots on offense. Dan Campbell's the heart and soul of the team, obviously. You see him out there, he's freaking crying up on the mic after every game. I mean, some people like that type of energy. It can only go so far. We watched some decision. We all agree as Lions fans that we wanted to go for the fourth downs last year in the NFC championship game against the 49ers. But if you ask anybody who's not a Lions fan, I mean, doesn't mean that they know anything, but they're going to go and say, oh, that's on coaching, right? That's a coaching decision. Had you gone at the 3 points, it could have been a whole different game. Coulda, woulda, shoulda. But we're watching two big games, that game, the NFC championship, as well as this game, fall down to coaching and decision-making, namely at the end of the first half. I don't know what the hell was going on with our timing and what the play is, or if Ben Johnson is out there calling things, dishing it up. Dan Campbell has to go out there and check him and be like, nah, no, don't press it. Go get the 3 points. I don't know. I think I want to take this moment in week 2. We all love Dan Campbell, but I want to start applying pressure from our perspective as fans, because we can't just be, not everything he does can be good, and we can't be backing him up, holy hell, all the time. We have to call a spade, and he messed up. And if he's going to be up there crying on the podium, I'm cool with that, but do not be crying every time we lose, please.
Interesting.
Hopefully it's just once.
Now, I will say I agree with a good chunk of what you said. There's other parts I don't agree with. For example, I think he cries an appropriate amount, but that's just me. The other thing, well, no, I'll start with what I do agree with totally is, and I don't mean to hijack your point, but I do totally agree that his role is to be the raw guy and the decision maker on those big plays, and it's on him, and he even admitted. So it's not on the special teams coach. Sounds like he was sending those guys out. He messed that play up. You kick that field goal then, and then later in the game, the game might not necessarily play out the same, but you're only down by 3. You can kick a field goal. You don't need to rush down the field and try to get a foot down.
Right.
So it changed the dynamic of the whole game. I actually totally agree there. I think the other thing, which, is a bit frustrating to your point is, and I like this about him in most games, it just costs us in this game, is he has total trust in his coordinators.
Yeah.
Like, he is an empowering coach. That's what he does. He set up the original offense, actually. I've learned more about that, read more about that, how a lot of the offense is based on a lot of his principles, blah, blah, blah. But he's not interfering in terms of the actual play calls. Every once in a while, particularly when, it's looking like the offense, and it's bizarre because the offense put up a ton of yards, but it would just stall out on weird plays where Goff was getting so much pressure on him. There was too many on 3rd and 6, what I love about the Lions is you run the ball twice. And I get that, the week before, the Rams were preventing us from going up the middle. They were preventing the middle throws. They were trying to cover the runs in the middle. So we were sweeping to the outside. Those run plays weren't working. Those plays where we're getting 2 yards looked like it would work, and it didn't work. Someone needs to step in and say, hey, and
run the ball.
And if you're Dan Campbell, I think Ben Johnson would listen to you if you say, hey, I think we should probably run the ball a little bit more. Going to leave it up to you. It doesn't have to be like a dick, you better run the ball. You know what I mean? But
no. He needs to look at him and go, run the fucking ball.
Let's pound the rock, man.
Pound the rock, man. Come on. What are you doing? Red face. Clipboard in the hand. He needs the...
and then Ben Johnson, we can do that.
He's like, yes, coach. That's what I need. I need him to sit there quiet, silent for 10 minutes.
Because it's not a bad idea. It's not a bad idea.
Yeah. I mean, checks and balances. I mean, that's what he's there for as well. And so he needs to, like you said, he needs to check these coordinators.
Yeah, I just want to say I agree with that. Pound the rock, the mishap before the half. Those are definitely issues, but I do I don't think the tears at the podium are bad. I think it's good to see a man be emotional but he's also taking accountability. It'd be one thing if he wasn't. Yeah. And I mean, it's not like we've heard that same old speech. We haven't heard one exactly like that before. And I think it was impactful, and it was him. Yeah. I mean, statistically, we outgamed them, and that's what sucks.
I think he's also, when he's doing that, I think he's also, even though this time it was truly him, it was in a big way him, I think you also need to take a look at, the other coaches, the other players, and what he's doing by doing that is recognizing that they all played a pretty good game, but there was moments where someone screwed up or he screwed up or whatever, and it's taking because I think we all forget the human side of this. Yes, all the Lions players seem to have this really gritty mentality, we're going to come out and knock you out, but humans have emotions, so for him to deflect a lot of that blame, absorb that blame. I agree that if the Lions lose 4 games and only cries after every game, people are going to start going, okay, what the hell? Right, as long as it stays at the frequency it is now, it seems like once every 2 to 3 years, fine with me.
Yeah. And you're right. I'm good with him crying every once in a while. I just I don't want it to be every. Why is my coach crying?
You know, to do the Chip Kelly and bang on the table and.
No, that
every time.
That was turned into a bunch of amazing memes. So I like that one.
Yeah,
but
that's a good one.
Hey, Dan Campbell's been memed a bunch too. Kneecaps. But
yeah.
Yeah, I do like him taking the blame, but I do hope that if I'm all for Goff, I love him, but let's say Goff's not doing it, I do hope that they go out there and be like, hey, Goff's got to step up. Hey, we need more out of Hutch. Hey, because sometimes players get motivated by that. So hopefully, hey, he's got that dog in him too.
Yeah, I mean, last point I'll make on that. In his first year, he did one time say Goff. They just needed more out of Goff. I think after we got literally bounced by the Bengals, and I think he did play better after that. So, I agree that I think if the struggles continue, he will get there. Because even though Goff struggled again, I think, as you said, he kind of screwed this game up. Him and the play calling. Speaking
of that, we're going to go into our overreactions for the week. And so I've seen a lot of Woodward Sports is taking a lot of flack for it, but they went out. They've been talking about Goff. Someone put out a tweet basically saying like Hendon Hooker or like we need him or something in pictures. And so I don't think any of our overreactions are that big. But I don't know, as a Lions fan, that feels a little abysmal. We're doing Jared Goff chants, and then literally 3 games later, like we started that win, like beginning of the playoffs, week 1 of the playoffs, and then 5 games later, now we got, one of the biggest sports media companies out there.
Woodward Sports.
Woodward Sports, yeah.
Yeah, no, that whole company should be lit on fire. It's a bunch of useless yoo-hoos and boo-hoos.
Media war?
Well, we're not. I mean, they probably say who the goddamn hell is that guy? But they're literally just the natural successors of the worst parts of 97-1. But go ahead.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. So I mean, that's why we're here, right? Right. It came to save Detroit media, especially the Lions talk. Got to start small, then make our way big. But moving into our overreactions for the week. So speaking of big overreactions, I guess I'll kick it off. So, this was the second year of my life that I came into a Detroit Lions season with so much optimism and so much hype. Bro, I made it one of my goals this offseason to make teams of other fans actually hate us. I was like, no. My buddy's going to be like a Cardinals fan. He's like, hey, you guys look pretty good this year. Well, we're going to kick your ass. What are you talking about? We look good. Fuck you. We're going to kick your ass. I made it a point to be like, and maybe that's on me, a little cocky, and I think a lot of us fans did. I mean, I think we were throwing around 17-0 for the last 3 months. That's ridiculous. But high hopes. My overreaction is I think that so much hype and desire for us to actually win a Super Bowl has caused our team to go stagnant. And I can't speak to the players or to the coaches, but I wonder how much of that has gotten into the heads of Amon-Ra St. Brown, Penei Sewell. Hutchinson looks like a man playing for that paycheck, so I can't say him. But Jared Goff, some of these guys. And I hope that, this is my overreaction, but I hope that there's no feelings there of stagnation or like, hey, we've already made it, because, brother, we haven't done anything.
I think that's a complete overreaction. That's insanity. I mean, you're a lunatic for pissing people off like that. I mean, I hate Eagles fans because they're the worst. So I don't want you doing that to the Lions. We're good fans. But I mean, come on, bro. We lost game 2 last year. Expectations are high, but relax. This is week 2. And we have a tough schedule. We do. We have a harder schedule. Heavy as the crown.
Yeah.
It is. And I'm not worried about the players be paid. I think Goff is going to need that inside protection, or it's going to be a tough year for him. But Sewell's a dog. I don't think him getting paid is going to change anything. Amon-Ra is, I mean, you saw him literally trying to get back in the game after he took like someone's face mask straight to the thigh. Like,
yeah.
Dude's coming back. He's playing. He's played through a torn quad. I think torn. I forgot, whatever, some muscle. I think they'll be okay. But it is from a fan perspective. I do think you're right on the fans. I think we got too hyped. Like, I think I was just expecting the Lions to come in and literally dog walk every team they played.
Yeah.
Forgetting it's the literal NFL. It's like the league on earth with the most parity. Outside of the Panthers and Giants, like, you could literally lose to any given team on any week, I feel like.
Oh, yeah.
So, and it's just like Sam Darnold's Vikings are 2-0. Like, who would have thought that going into the year? I thought for sure they'd be at minimum 1-1, if not 0-2. The Packers with literal, a literal quarterback should be in the UFL or the Canadian Football League, won a game against Indianapolis Colts. So any given Sunday is just what it is. But I think the fans got ahead of themselves. I think the players, it's just a rough game, really a bad coaching game. But I do like your overreaction. One overreaction I have, which I've actually kind of been on this tip for a minute, is the offensive line needs some serious investment in the offseason. And it's not because I think the current players are horrible. I think they're going to bounce back. But I think there's a couple things. The old guys take longer to shake the rust off, and if we're not going to play them in the preseason, that means the first 2 to 3 games they're going to be rusty. And
Yeah.
it also means as the season wears on, they're more likely to get injured. They're more likely to miss time. So I'm not saying we need to replace Ragnow. I'm not saying Glasgow needs to go right now. Decker we just obviously re-signed, but I think with 1, if not 2 of your first 3 picks next year, you target a interior lineman and maybe even 2 interior linemen. I think, it's fine to have depth that are young guys that you're hoping to build up, but I also wouldn't hate seeing a solid back sixth guy in we have what's his name, Skipper. He's a solid swing tackle. I don't hate him being out there, but it'd be nice to have that swing guard in there. So if Zeitler or Glasgow goes down, we don't have a literal traffic cone in front of Jared Goff. Again, this is for the NFL level. I'm literally a 5'8", 150-pound guy. Couldn't do shit, but I'm talking about at that level of traffic cone. So, this has really pushed the narrative for me that I love Brad Holmes. I love his drafting style, but now that we know that Jared Goff is awesome when he has an awesome line, and some quarterbacks, even when they have an awesome line, are not. Like Bryce Young looked horrific on Sunday, and his offensive line actually played pretty decently. So Jared Goff is a good quarterback, but he's not a quarterback that's going to succeed. And to be candid, most won't, except for the best of the best of all time behind a bad line. So I think being proactive, investing in that line, we've already got great receiving options. Make that a priority in the offseason, and that way we Jared Goff, I think, will live up to that contract.
Yeah, that's a good overreaction. I think I agree with you. So I don't think that's
I don't think it's an overreaction. I think it's fair. And we kind of
maybe I don't. Maybe I'm shitty at overreacting. How about this? Fired Dan Campbell.
Well, I think
honestly.
we alluded to your overreaction, leading up to this in the preseason. We were talking about when to take one, and if anything.
How about this? Here's my actual, and I apologize for cutting you off. My real overreaction, I guess, would be I honestly would like for them to trade for a backup guard this year.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Let's follow up with that as the weeks progress.
Right. At what cost?
Let's see how we feel about that. Honestly.
Yeah.
All right. My overreaction, it kind of ties into my shit list. We skipped over my shit list, but it'll tie right into it. My overreaction is Baker Mayfield is a natural mobile quarterback. And because it seems like people are like, oh, yeah, he is mobile, but he does have some legs. It's like, he's been mobile. That's how he's been playing. That's my overreaction. But my shit list is my boy Malcolm wearing his jersey, as I was while watching the game, while watching him get his ankles broken. And, my heart was breaking. Meanwhile, it was just tough to watch. And I was wearing the jersey. So added insult to injury. And, but Baker Mayfield, mobile quarterback.
What about this? How was the overreaction? Baker Mayfield, QB1?
Oof. He's up there. Honestly, he's climbing the rankings. He's exactly what the thing is he's never going to be, in my opinion, like a Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, literally take the game over. But if you put him on a good team, he's like a winner. He just is a winner. Dude's a winner. And by the way, George, to your point, in college, now it's college, so it's a little different, but in 2015, which would have been his redshirt sophomore year, Buddy had 405 yards rushing, 7 touchdowns. That's not Lamar numbers, but that's really good. And that, is netting out sack yards too. So he probably had close to 500 yards rushing. So, and then a little dip his junior year and his senior year, back up to 305 touchdowns. So definitely a mobile quarterback.
Yeah, I think Cleveland did him dirty, and they're a dumpster fire as a result. So just saying.
Yeah, they got the same record as us. It was a tough week for a lot of good teams. We saw a lot of what could you even call them upsets in the NFL? I feel like you said any given Sunday, but the Ravens took a hard L to the Raiders, and then the one that really disappointed me in our NFC North wrap up for the week. How in the hell did the Indianapolis Colts lose to the Packers? That is infuriating. Because it's I don't know. I thought they were a decent team. So
is AR-15 on fraud watch?
Relax.
Fraud watch?
Relax.
Buddy looked Cheeks McGee. against a not great Packers secondary. Okay, it's a good Packers secondary. A good
Yeah, I
Packers
think
secondary.
Let the guy
remember,
get some more snaps.
Yeah, I'm not saying he's done,
Jesus.
but I'm saying he's on the fraud watch.
You sound like a Bryce Young supporter over there.
I mean, he threw for a lot of yards. What are we talking about? I know he had 4 interceptions. He's on my fantasy team. Trust me, I know. And I lost to Kane this week. It makes me sick.
Yeah.
Must win week.
But
I lost. But
to Kane's point, how do you lose? And again, no
To a
disrespect,
CFL quarterback.
like a dude who legitimately was not good enough to be like Will Levis. I think actually still has potential, but has looked like an absolute clown show on the field at times.
Dude.
That guy couldn't. That guy literally. They said that our current guy isn't good enough. We need to go get Mayo Man.
Yeah. I didn't know Malik Willis could throw the ball.
That's the only reason that people liked him. That's literally the only reason people liked him. Is he? I feel like he could run and chuck it 50 yards. But he can't. Like he's like AR, where it's like there's some sweet throws, and then the next time he's going to hit a grandma in the stands.
Yeah, for sure.
I will say, was that your biggest? NFC North. I think didn't Minnesota beat the heck out of San Francisco? That's probably the biggest surprise to me.
Maybe I don't. Yeah. So Minnesota. Well, I guess Green Bay was home too. I think just we're talking about Malik Willis and his capability, but Sam Darnold's no slouch. Like he to stay in the league for what is it now, like 8 years for him, bounce around, start games, to like be persistent in the league. You can't be a slouch. And so, and obviously he's paired with Love Amon-Ra. He's paired with the number 1 receiver in the league, and it clearly showed in that game. But no, they went out there with a great game plan. One thing that scares me is if you see after that game, Purdy went up to defensive coordinator, old Miami Dolphins coach Flores, and he went up to him and was like, "Your scheme is crazy. Like your defensive scheme is." He literally said, "Your defensive scheme is crazy," basically alluding to Shanahan and Purdy out there couldn't really scheme against it, really couldn't get anything going. So, that's horrifying to hear. So. Big upset, though, George. You are correct. And for some reason, it seems like our division is going to keep winning games, even though we don't want them to. Except who?
Bears.
The bust himself. Sounds kind of weird, but the bust that we know as Caleb Williams. I have DJ Moore in one of my other fantasy leagues. And it was actually hilarious watching me lose that league by 1 point to my buddy DeAndre. And then Caleb Williams missed probably 10 throws to DJ Moore. And then DJ Moore lay on the ground in sheer disappointment and anger. So
bad pick on your part by taking DJ. Any of those Bears receivers.
There's no pick. I traded for him for nothing. But for nothing. It was like
he wanted him after the fact. He had time to think about it, but he wanted him after the fact.
I traded away Caleb Williams after week 1 in that league because I don't want to support him.
That's a good decision.
Yeah. I don't know. So
I did.
NFC North still looks like it's ours for the taking.
Did you see the clip going around? A lot of people were trying to read the lips of DJ Moore and what he was saying.
What did it look like?
Who's their backup quarterback? Who they had last year?
Bajan.
Oh, Bajan. Yeah.
He might have said something to him like, "I need you, bro." Is what some. I mean, there was also people saying he was saying some crazy stuff online, but I don't think that's true. But
what if he means "I need you, bro"? As in I want you physically and emotionally.
Yeah. I guess one of the
DJ.
One of the craziest sound bites of all time is Caleb Williams telling his punter, "Hey, we won't need you a lot. You won't be punting a lot," and then them literally punting on 90% of their drives. So
I think they have the 4th most punts this season out of any NFL team.
I love it. Let's keep it that way. Let's let Malik Willis finally lose games. What the hell? And let's wrap this division up.
Lions versus Vikings, week 18 for the division. Let's go.
I hope it doesn't come down to that. I hope our record is substantially better. But thank you, listeners, for listening to the week 2 recap of our game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tune in this Friday to listen to our week 3 preview against the Arizona Cardinals. As always, have a blessed week. Stay healthy.